Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and welcome to another episode of Celebrity Jobber. The person that we talk to, you know him from being a big star, but if he wasn't a big star, what do you think this person would be doing? You know, every celebrity has their big break, and if they didn't have that big break, they'd be doing something completely different, probably not in the public eye, just like a regular, everyday 9-to-5 average Joe like you and I. Talking about Bret Michaels from the band Poison. This is a huge band from the 80s, and what I love about Bret Michaels and Poison is over the years, the guy has maintained being relevant. And that's so difficult in the music business. You know, the music business, it's so, cyclical and it's so trendy. So it's hot right now, but then the music is dated in 10 years. And for Bret Michaels to keep Poison kind of going since the mid-'80s until right now. I mean, look, just went out on tour with Motley Crue and Def Leppard and Joan Jett for the Stadium Tour. It was the highest grossing tour of last year. This is unbelievable. The guy constantly keeps himself relevant, whether it's on Celebrity Apprentice, whether it was on the VH1 reality TV show Rock of Love, and still releasing new songs like his latest called Back in the Day. This guy keeps himself relevant and probably a big reason for his success. But what if Bret Michaels was Bret Michaels Sachek from Pittsburgh, PA? What would he be doing? We're going to ask him right now, as Bret Michaels is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
Jeff, my friend, it is Bret Michaels. How are you doing, buddy?
Bret, you know what's so funny is there's a little saying in our business. It's called rock and roll time, and that's usually like 15 to 20 minutes after the scheduled time. But I got to tell you, maybe the reason you're so successful is because you're like right on the dot.
You know why? Let me add to that.
Yeah, tell me.
The entire team knows I live on rock and roll time, so the interview was scheduled for 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
They know how to mentally warp me and play my rock and roll mind, and it works perfectly.
Oh, my God, you're ahead of the game. That's awesome. You know, it's funny. I've been in this business for almost 30 years, and me and you have never spoke before. So I started writing some stuff down about just little things I wanted to chat with you about. And then all of a sudden, a page filled up, and I go, oh, my God, I got a lot to ask this guy. I hope he's got a minute for me to get through all this stuff.
We've got so much time. Let's make this awesome. I've been looking forward to the interview and coming to play Tampa. You know, Florida's my main stomping ground now, right?
You know, it's funny you mention that because I'll see you locally, like at Lightning games and stuff. They're like, Bret Michaels is here. And I'm like, how'd you become a fan of the Tampa Bay Lightning?
So it's real simple. First of all, I'm a hockey fanatic. I'm a sports fanatic. I'm a hockey fanatic. Tampa has become like the unbelievable city of wins. You know what I mean? When you're going through the Rays, the Buccaneers, the Bolts, you know what I mean? But it's a great, let me say this, I have a lot of great friends there, but Steve Griggs and everyone is running the Bolts. Such amazing people, and I brought my daughters down there. One of them, I flew them in for their birthday. Everyone treated us great, and you know I love my Florida vibe. I've made that very apparent, and it's just a good feel. It's good people, and it's like I said, that's what happened. Again, I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh area. I bleed the yellow and black.
Right.
But I still love coming down there for spring training. I do that there in Arizona. You know, I get the both leagues in their spring training, and it's just Florida just has a good vibe. No matter what anyone says or does, all things aside, just great people.
So stepping back to growing up in, just outside of Pittsburgh, tell me a little bit about growing up. Tell me a little bit about your home life, mom and dad, what they did and how it was growing up.
So here's growing up for me, right? My father, I'm the son of a veteran. and my mom worked at a correctional facility, right? Just doing accounting stuff and helping in the rehabilitation process and all that, which was great. I got two sisters, Michelle and Nicole, but I grew up in a small town outside of Pittsburgh called Butler, and then we moved around a bit with my father, different places. We ended up in the Inland Naval Depot in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And mine was sports and music. That was my childhood. It was, that's what the entire song, I'm going to throw right to it. That's what the entire song of Back in the Day is all about. The video, the book I did, Autoscrapography, all the A&E stuff, everything that's coming out is based off of then through the years to now. And it was just awesome. I got to, my first dirt bikes, I went down to Zanotti's on Route 8 and bought my first dirt bike as a kid. I never knew there was a new section.
Right.
I just want people to know. We didn't know between hotel and motel there was an H in there. We only knew motel on our trips to Florida. And I only knew the U section, but was grateful for getting my first YZ80 and fixing it up, and it was good times.
So growing up in Pennsylvania, good times. And what was really so surprising to me was that I was reading about how you met Ricky Rocket and Bobby Dall. You guys were in a band when you guys were in your teens. And here we are, how many years later, and these guys are still in your band. Is it because the success of the band, maybe, for all these years, because you guys grew up together and such good friends?
Yes, so that's a great question. Here's what it is for us. We grew up in small town, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. When Bobby, Ricky, myself met, we had a different guitar player at the time. His name was Matt Smith, great guy. His then girlfriend, they were having a baby, and we lived behind a dry cleaner in the back half of it. So he did the right thing as a man, as a human. He became a great dad and a great father, and then we met Cece. But growing up together, we would rock. All of our gear was always down in the basement. Everyone says garage band,
right?
But when you grow up in a small town in the winter, that garage, even with the even with a heater thrown out there, if you have a space heater, it didn't work. So you end up in the basement. Pray that the sump pump was working. You weren't flooded, and you would rehearse, and then we would go find every show we did. I need listeners to hear this. We gave 1,000% if we were playing a mud-filled spring fling. We would go rent gear. We would make our own pyro. We wanted people to have an incredibly, incredibly awesome show. But the thing that people really realized during the stadium tour, Poison is raw, real music. And what I mean by that is we come out, our music is real, it's raw, we're singing, we're playing. That positive energy from day one till now exists. The gratitude exists, but our friendship is real. Regardless of where the years have taken us, we went through a lot of stuff together, packed up that ambulance van and a Chevette and a green pickup truck and, went to California and starved, but that's what you got to do. You got to pay your dues. And of course, there wasn't the internet then, so you went to every venue and you just played. You shook hands. You told people thank you, whether there was one or 100.
Right.
There was more leaning towards one then. And then there's 100. I would start buying free beer for people, and then they would stay a little longer. And I'm not making this up. We played clubs in Detroit, and there'd be like 12 people standing back by the bar, and I'd buy a six-pack of beer, and suddenly at least 6 of them were up near the stage. And then they started loving the music, and thank God we're still here to have a great time.
Dude, have you ever thought back? I mean, you seem like a pretty introspective guy. You ever sit back and think about, like, man, if it wasn't for music, if it wasn't for Poison, what would I be doing these days? Do you ever think about that? Or is that just so much in the rearview mirror now?
No, nothing for me. I'm a hands-on person. So if you were around me and you just hanging out, I'm a hands-on, get it done, rock, kind of person. I look at it this way. I am beyond grateful every day. I'm 1,000%. And that doesn't mean there's some days that suck. There's a few,
Sure.
between my diabetes and you hit the wall. We've done it a million times, but we bet on ourselves. I repeat this always. I bet on myself, and we went out there to L.A., and we were told no 1,000 times. Like, it wasn't going to happen. Every Rose Has Its Thorn sucks. This song's never going to hit. Here was a key word. Brett, I don't hear the nucleus of a hit on Talk Dirty to Me. There's no nucleus of a hit.
That's hilarious.
It was a hit. Oh, my God, I told you day one, baby, we love you. You know how it goes.
Oh, I sure do.
Everyone loves you when it finally breaks through. However, having said this, and then I'll get to your actual question, here was the blessing here was the silver lining. Poison never once was asked to sell our publishing. No one wanted it. So we kept our record label was our own, and we kept all of our publishing. And who knew that was an amazing golden ticket? Who knew? In other words, then I didn't know enough about the business, but that was the silver lining, and now it's a good day.
Oh, without a doubt, it's a good day. Yeah, publishing is everything in your business, isn't it?
It is, and touring. We love to tour, and we love to put on a great show. But I want to go back to the original question. You were talking about what would I do, and I said music will play a part in my life in every single thing I do. So I wake up, I'm working out, I put music on. I do this, I put music on. It's helped me. It's been therapeutic for me as a diabetic. When you're a kid at 6 years old taking 4 and 5 injections and your blood tests and all this stuff, music, I'm not making this up. I actually gaff taped to my motorcycle handlebars. Don't laugh. I'm going way old school.
Right.
An 8-track tape. Where you hit the top of it. It was like you smashed the top of it and it switched the tracks.
Right.
And then eventually I got modern and got a cassette. I gaff taped it so I could take it with me out to the dirt bike track and listen on my jam box. I'm not making this up.
Wow.
So I'd be honored, as I said in my song back in the day, DJ, VJ, and ready, long-haul truck driver.
Really?
I love to drive more than any human, I think, on earth, or I'm up there in the top 10. I can get in my car and drive. I make my kids do road trips with me. The family sometimes look at me like, no. I'm like, come on. We're going to get in the car, all the cell phones off, and 10 minutes into it, we're cranking up music, all kind of music, rock, pop, country, singing, driving along PCH or A1A.
And you could do it alone, Brett. You could be a long haul trucker, being on the road alone. You could do a road trip by yourself.
I can be a lone wolf. I'm not kidding you. Music takes me to another place, and I put it this way. I took a vehicle, right, from Cali to Florida, right, almost 90% of the way by myself. And this is recently.
Jesus.
Like, I just jump in the car, I turn music on, I said, I'm going to Florida. Weather's beautiful. I can't wait. And this is, when I say recent, I'm talking real recent, and it was good for my soul. And then at the end, some friends came along. We jumped in the car, drove down, and partied with Guy Fieri and had a good time.
Awesome. What was your first job ever, Brett?
You ready?
Yeah.
So this is before child labor laws. Right?
Okay.
I'm hoping in this day and age, this is me being self-deprecating, but true. So before child labor laws, I worked on a ranch. I'm not making this up. Feeding cattle. I would just, it was feed. Let's do it that way. Then there was a Purina, I believe it was Purina, and we loaded the trucks. And then I worked at Giant Food, now completely of age. Okay?
Right.
Giant Food, loading the trucks, right? Conveyor belt. And I learned how to load a truck, which was good for learning how to load my own equipment and gear.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then this is the one that'll make you laugh. All of a sudden now I'm a fry cook. And my dad and mom would laugh. They're like, you suck cooking food. The only thing you can do is barbecue. And they're like, you're now a cook at a restaurant? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm great. And I would go in, but I was more busboy than cook.
Right.
And then from there, I was a maintenance man at the Villa Leo Resort. Go in, they'd give me a chart. I'd have to do setups and maintenance. So I got a lot of mechanical skills that ended up being a blessing. Low paycheck, but a lot of mechanical skills.
Wow. You just never know. Like when I always love to ask, what your first job was, because you just, some of these guys will definitely surprise you. One guy like John Oates says, I never made a dollar in my life outside of guitar lessons or music business. But then some guys like you had careers before rock and roll. I think people love to hear about that stuff.
Absolutely. And can I tell you something? That's what I love. There's some friends of mine that all they did from the word go was, like you said, guitar lessons, all that stuff. I just grew up in a very blue-collar area, and I knew that if I wanted to, I always say this to people, everyone, I feel, a lot of people have talent. They're dreamers. So I'm a realist. I'm a dreamer, but an absolute realist that the dream is great. Getting there's the bitch.
Right.
What I mean by that is now how do I want to play Madison Square Garden. I'm stuck in my water-soaked, pumpless basement. The magic is how hard am I willing to work to get there without selling my soul? That's the important thing. In other words, sticking to your guns, loving what you do, and then finding a way to get it done. But had I not, I need listeners to know this, and I want to say my family, fans out there, your listeners, that had I not proceeded to go on, I still would have played in a band, whether it was a cover band, a local band. I would have went into the world of learning how to become a DJ or a VJ,
right?
Or a long-haul truck driver. I like my independence too, but I'm saying I would have got my CDL. But I give people credit. It's interesting to hear what they did to get there. Our first time we put the second record out, and it exploded, right?
Right.
With Every Rose. Publicists, we never had a publicist, so they're like, you don't want to tell people you did that. You just made it. You got this. You got car. I said, that's not what happened at all. And I think the reason I can relate with a lot of people is I've just told it as it is. I'm
right.
like, no, I didn't. I'd love to tell you I just magically got this big record deal.
Right.
But shit, I was sitting on the floor on my record signing day. I was sitting on a floor in El Segundo, California, shrink wrapping our own records in cassettes.
Wow, man.
That was I go, wait a minute. This isn't in my rock and roll Kiss brochure.
Right.
I'm seeing jets and people, women, beautiful, everyone partying, having the time of their life.
Right.
Champagne. I go, I'm sitting here with a cup of water or some kind of second-rate diet beverage.
That's hilarious.
Shrink wrapping album.
They don't know that. People don't see that. They don't know the reality.
That was my reality. I wish it was the other way.
I hear you. What do you think? You've gone from, the 80s to now, and there's been so much that has happened to you. But what do you consider your big break? Is there a series of events or one thing that you can look back on now and be like, man, you know what? If this didn't happen, who knows?
Right. So this is you need to ask every artist this question. I call it the crossroads. There's always three of them, at least minimum three, right? So again, I want to go back to this with the new song back in the day. What I did with the video was shot it early MTV style with the green screen, but it's then and now. So there's a baby picture of me jamming out on my guitar, right? My first guitar. Then it shows me playing the guitar at the stadium, then to now. And I think the first crossroad for me was in a snow-filled parking lot in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, technically Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. Outside of the Radio Shack, I had to work as a maintenance guy, and the owner of the Radio Shack would not let me in to buy a 5-prong mic stand because he didn't think I had the money. I can't make this up. He wouldn't open the door. I said, I got to go to work. Look, I'm showing you I have the money. It's like $43 or whatever the hell it was for the mic stand. It was one of those
right.
badass looking 5-prong mic stands. He wouldn't let me in. I walked back to my car, looked at my work boots with the metal toe, right, in the snow, cigarette butts, and I said, that's it. packing my stuff up, selling everything. I'm going with or without my band. I love you guys, but I'm going to California. If I'm going to starve, it's going to be warm, right? You know, if I have no money, I'd like it to at least be somewhat warm. And we're going to go out there and try to write original music. That was the first crossroad. Real happened, and less than a month later, on my birthday in March is when we left. Can't make that up.
You got to fish where there's fish, right?
You got to fish where there was fish. There was opportunity. And, again, a lot of bands out there, everyone wants to try to break big. But so I went there. My second big moment was Texas Stadium. If anyone watches the Poison, I Won't Forget You video.
Okay.
That day was a crossroads. So here's our first album. We're opening for Aerosmith, and I think on the bill was Whitesnake, Aerosmith, Boston, and Paul Stanley from Kiss is out there. He comes on stage with us. He's playing music. Watch the I Won't Forget You video.
Okay.
That was the moment that Poison went from just playing small clubs, and it exploded. Now the record, remember, we had an independent album, so I don't want fans to start crying here from this long-winded part. But we had an independent record.
No, I'm asking. We want to know.
Yeah, so it's an independent album. We shrink-wrapped it ourselves. It explodes. Now Talk Dirty to Me hits. Then I Want Action hits. Now I Won't Forget You. We're filming a video. And the next thing you know, we're at 3-4 million copies sold of a record. It was
unbelievable.
Poison is unheard of as an independent album. And then Capitol and EMI stepped in. You know,
right.
Once we proved ourselves, everyone came in, but we were in charge. In other words, we were like, great, no, we want to do this. We want to build our house from the ground up. And if one day you decide we're not distributing the record, we're not going to stop. We'll just go back and do it ourselves.
Right.
And so that was a huge day. People can actually see it. That's
cool that it's actually documented. The day is documented. That is so cool. And then what was the third crossroads, Brett?
Well, the third crossroads comes when all of a sudden, you know, here it is. A third crossroads for me is in the reality TV world. I create a lot of stuff. I write a lot of stuff. Some of it people don't even know. Shows I've done, created, produced that are just shows that other people are doing, but I'm part of the executive producing or producing it. But all of a sudden, here I am. I'd done a few things like Nashville Star with Leanne Rhymes.
Right.
But I said I was doing this show called Rock a Love.
Yes, sir. I know it well.
It was a crazy, fun dating show. I said, look, I beg you, my acting skills suck. I said, put it this way, I'm not putting De Niro out of work.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to tell you. I said, please let this be reality. Let me drive up on my Harley. Everything has got to be mine. The cars, the thing, the motorcycles, just I don't want it to be my house because if we're going to wreck it,
right? Yeah,
great to wreck someone else's property.
Yeah, you definitely don't want those girls coming to your house, no doubt.
Oh, they were fun, and the girls were. Let me say this: total credit due. The girls were rock stars. They partied. They had fun. We told them all, look, I pulled up. I said, I'm not doing a second and third take. I'm going to pull up. I'm going to talk. I said, I don't know if we're going to find love, but we're going to find something. Let's go party. We went into the house, at adult beverage, and it's become their biggest hit show to this day. And we did it. It was supposed to be a one-off show, 6 episodes, and ended up being their biggest show, and they would do 40 more of them. I just said after 3 years of it, I was, you know what I mean? It was great. I was happy, but left at the top of the game.
Right. It's so incredible to me, like, and I mean this sincerely, and I know we've never spoke before, but I'm just saying, in your business, it's so difficult to stay relevant and to keep, music is cyclical, so things are hot in the 80s, not necessarily in the 90s, but you always kind of found a way to stay ahead of the curve and reinvent yourself. And for, I'd really admire you for doing that, because it's got to be so difficult. And then obviously let's talk about the stadium tour. Has that come about where the biggest tour in rock and roll history is formed with the biggest bands, in the 80s that you couldn't dream of anything like this happening, and Motley Crue was broken up. So how did that all happen for you?
All through the years, Poison has been on the road with Def Leppard, Joan Jett, Motley Crue. I went down solo with Motley Crue to Australia. They were great. Def Leppard's great, Joan Jett, and the new band, Classless Act, Brand New Rock. They're amazing. I was so happy to get on that stadium tour. What I mean by that is they knew we were going to be part of it. But like when we did our first, I don't know if you remember the first press conference when it launched.
I do.
We were all together in the room, and they asked me one simple question. They kicked off, and I said, I looked at everybody and said, if I was not on this bill, I would buy a ticket to this concert. I don't care. I love music. So if Poison wasn't on this, I'd be buying a ticket to see this.
Right.
And Nikki comes up behind and goes, Brett, that's exactly, I don't need to say anything else. Nikki goes, that's exactly it. We all bring a unique style to that stage, and every band gave 1,000%. Everybody up on that stage gave their best, and the fans win. In other words, the listeners. And now there was, 4 generations of fans at those shows?
Right.
It was awesome.
Brett, great getting to know you. Great getting to talk to you a little bit. And thanks so much for giving me your time this week.
We need to clone more of you in this industry. Honestly, we need more of you to just keep this thing rockin' real and relevant.
Man, awesome. Awesome to talk to you, Brett. Thanks again, man.
You too, my friend. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too, man. How about this guy? Like one of the friendliest people I've ever spoke to. You know, I've done this for a long time. And, you know, when people are kind of going through the motions, you're doing an interview, you ask a question, they, give you the stock answer. They don't really answer the question. This guy, man, not only does he give you the answer you're looking for, if he goes a little bit off topic for a second, hey, but I just want to say this before I get back to your original question. I mean, he's listening. He's sincere and like just a really, really cool guy. And maybe that's why he's got so much success. I mean, Poison comes out in the early 80s. They moved from just outside of Pittsburgh to L.A. Because that's where the fish are. I've always been told fish where the fish are. And the fish are in L.A. when you're talking about, rock and roll. At least they definitely were back in the early 80s. His buddies from high school, Bobby Dall and Ricky Rocket. Maybe that's why Poison's still successful, too, because you've put together a band that consists of good buddies of yours growing up. I mean, they know everything about each other, their family, and that's what it takes to stay together in that rock and roll business. Hey, who knows what Bret Michaels would have been if it wasn't for Poison? I don't think he would have been a long-haul trucker, but it seems like he really likes to get on the road. And that was interesting to me. He would have been a long-haul trucker because he just loves taking a road trip. Wow, that was surprising. But he definitely said he would have been, if it wasn't for Poison, he doesn't know, but music would have been a part of his life. He definitely would have been in a cover band or some kind of band playing music. Maybe that wasn't going to be his real full-time job. Maybe it was being on the road as a long-haul trucker. But when he got home on the weekends or whenever he got home, maybe he'd pick up the guitar and a couple of the boys and go out and play some gigs at some local bars. Wow, what a story. And he was, first job, worked on a ranch. He was a fry cook. I mean, geez, this guy, he was a working man, blue-collar guy, and has not lost sight of that. And for that, I think, is pretty cool. You got these rock stars. They're talking about limousines. They're talking about fur coats and groupies and strip clubs. And, this guy lives the lifestyle. But he is blue-collar guy, doesn't forget where he came from, and very cool. What a great conversation. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Celebrity Jobber wherever you pod, whether it's Apple Music or Amazon, Spotify. I really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week. I'm Jeff Zito.